we are. The big finale. The big to-doozy. Now, I have a confession. I'm terrible at math. Actually, I'm not terrible at math. I just forgot to include a very important release that I did see. So that makes it kind of like a 101 list. So just I'll explain when I get to that release on the list. But yeah, there was just a little bit of confusion, so big mistake on my part. But so we're gonna start at number 25. At number 25, I've got Black Panther. Black Panther was great, an amazing movie. I love Chadwick Boseman in the role. He was set up so great in Civil War as this guy out for revenge, and then he makes the right choice at the end, and then he's got to go back and take over his father's kingdom while discovering these dark secrets of the past. You know, his father was someone he looked up to, and then you got Michael B. Jordan as this powerhouse villain, just comes in wrecking shit, and that was just a great showdown, and really showed why this guy is someone we should root for in the MCU. And it's just so sad that we didn't get to see the follow-up to the story and the continuation of T'Challa's story. To me, Chadwick Boseman really did a great job in the role. I don't think they should have recasted it that quick out of the gate. I think that would have came across as insensitive to someone that was really a big pillar in his community, So, and they basically recast his son as basically T'Challa. So, we'll see more about that in the future, I hope. At 24, we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Really a hype for this series, man. I mean, it's fast-paced, doesn't waste any time, very emotional. We finally get to see some backstory on Rocket, which was long overdue. And, yeah, man, great movie. Kind of a weak villain, but I wasn't like a big high evolutionary guy before. I did recently rewatch the X-Men cartoon, and I remember that episode where they meet the high evolutionary, and he's got these like different animal creatures and stuff. So it was kind of cool seeing that he would kind of created these animal creatures in Volume 3 too. But all in all, like a great follow-up, wrap up to this story of these characters while also setting up the future of the team. Really excited to see how they continue that going forward. At 23, we got The Punisher, the Netflix series. To me, Jon Bernthal is just killed it as the Punisher. An incredible performance, and he really embodied that role. Like, he really brought the emotion to it, the intensity, like everything you want to see in the Punisher that makes him human, yet also just this monster of a killing machine. And yeah, there's not really much else I could say. I mean, the Billy Russo storyline I thought was done really interesting. Obviously, a little bit different than the comics, but still found a way to implement it in a way that was like topically fit in with the story, and still had this kind of emotional arc. Yeah, 2 seasons of The Punisher, great show. At 22, we have Spider-Man 2. I remember seeing this as a kid. Man, this was a big deal. The having Dr. Octopus as the villain, him and Spider-Man going at it. That was real great movie making, and the dynamic between him and Mary Jane was written really well. I still got that crush on Kirsten Dunst from being a kid. And looking at her up on the screen, just being like, man, she's pretty. But yeah, Spider-Man 2 nailed it. At 21, I got Blade 2. Blade 2, man, that was a sick movie. I remember seeing that. I think, again, I think I mostly saw it on TV until I was old enough to, like, buy the DVD or whatever. But yeah, like the whole there was a little bit of bad CGI in it. They were trying to do all like the CGI where the heroes are like flipping off of ledges and stuff, and it looked really bad. But aside from that, there was still a lot of practical effects in the movie. The Reaper vampires were super intimidating, but Blade was always just like you could tell like he was facing an enemy that was tougher than him, but he was still just a badass the whole way through. And then you got Ron Perlman as like the vampire guy leader. You got Norman Reedus as like the his helper that betrays him at the end. And it was just Blade 2 was a great time. Oh, and then the villain, yeah, the villain in that movie was also done really well. Like I think if I remember correctly, he was kind of like someone related to the vampire hierarchy, and they kind of experimented on him and made him this super vampire. So you kind of felt a little bad for him, even though, he was a bloodthirsty monster. All right. At 20, we have Spider-Man Far From Home. That was another great Spider-Man movie, but like, again, like it wasn't like the Spider-Man that it needed. The Tom Holland Spider-Man wasn't where he needed to be yet. But we were always building towards the No Way Home story. But getting to see Mysterio brought to life on the big screen, the way that they tied it into the Stark tech and the stuff from Civil War that Tony had, like kind of bringing that stuff back and making it part of like how he has his powers and stuff, and then also kind of like faking us out on the multiverse stuff and making it seem like we were getting into that. But yeah, it was really cool getting to see Spider-Man go up against Mysterio, and the cliffhanger at the end of that movie really was another one where we were just like, whoa. Also seeing J. Jonah Jameson, J.K. Simmons back as J. Jonah Jameson was like, what is happening? All right, at 19, I've got Avengers: Age of Ultron. Again, I think this will probably surprise a lot of people because a lot of people view this like a bad movie for some reason, but I didn't think it was bad at all. I thought it was amazing. You get the Avengers coming in hot right at the beginning, get some Avengers action, get to see them all going at it. But then we've got the introduction of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, who, they start off as bad guys, so we get to see them show off against the Avengers. And then you got Ultron, who was a great villain. He was intimidating. He was funny. You kind of agreed with him. I still love the meme that goes around where it's like Ultron was on the internet for 5 seconds and realized that humanity needed to be destroyed. So you kind of understand where he's coming from a little bit, but yeah, I know that you kind of had to like kill him off in the movie. Otherwise, he could just keep popping up whenever, but he's definitely a villain I'd love to see come back in some capacity because he was a really good villain, and getting to see the Avengers team up and have this big showdown. I'd also love to see Aaron Taylor Johnson come back as Quicksilver in some capacity. I mean, I know he's going to play Kraven now, but like whatever, man. Like we've got Josh Brolin playing Cable and Thanos, so I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibilities. So that's what I got to say about Ultron. I've always loved it. I still love. One of my favorite scenes was. I'd say the biggest weak point of this movie is the editing. It's just so fast paced, but there's a scene when Captain America's fighting Ultron, and he's losing, and it all kind of happens really fast, which I feel like it kind of lost its punch. But like there's kind of that moment where Cap is losing, and he's like kind of in a tough spot, and then Quicksilver comes in and just rams Ultron, and you're like, all right, Like now we've got these guys on my side. And he's like, oh, well, I'm out of here. It sticks in my brain now, even though it could have probably been played a little bit better for like emotion or intensity in that moment. But it was one of those things where I felt like, it was a really big moment in that movie, and it was done well. All right. Coming up at number 18, I've got Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I really love this movie. I know that there was a lot of calling to recast Chadwick Boseman, but I feel like there was this, there was a lot happening there, and I feel like they made this great movie, Black Panther, and they probably had hopes of really like telling a great story moving forward, and then Chadwick Boseman passes away tragically, and they've got to find a way to kind of like keep the story moving forward while also, paying respect to this world that they built. And I think they did a really great, beautiful job of handling that and passing the torch on to Shuri and dealing with their frustrations, and like it's a real thing, man. Like seeing how people handle like an unexpected loss like that. I mean, that's basically what happened with my dad. Some people are angry and want to burn the world down. Some people are very like zen and like he's moved on to a better thing, and there's just all these different emotions that people come at it with. And I think Wakanda Forever really landed that feeling while also bringing in Namor, who's, a beast and just a powerhouse of a character. And I think that they can do a lot of things with him going forward. Like, again, that's a good way to handle a villain. Start him out as a bad guy, and now we're going to work our way towards making him, this a big character in this universe, But yeah, I mean, a lot of people, and I get there are things like, maybe Letitia Wright wasn't ready to kind of take on that big role, but I think she did great, being kind of forced into that position. And it was a really touching movie, and yeah, I loved it. Definitely had its flaws, like there's the car chase where the Ironheart armor comes into play. Where I'm pretty sure they blew some people up, but it's kind of just glossed over. But then that leads into an amazing fight sequence between Okoye and Namor's henchmen on that bridge. So, get what you get. So I loved Wakanda Forever. We're getting into the nitty gritty here, man. So the next three are all animations. So at 17, I got Spider-Man, which is the 90s cartoon. Big deal for me growing up, man. I loved that cartoon. So many great things about that. It's basically where my love of the characters came into play. My favorite like Marvel things are Spider-Man and the X-Men, and that's because I had those cartoons growing up. And yeah, like seeing all the different villains he had to face, and they had the Punisher on there, they had X-Men on there, had a lot of different people come through that show, and that was like a really great way to discover that universe, was through the Spider-Man cartoon. And at 16, I've got the X-Men cartoon, the 90s cartoon, which was, again, like a big deal. And in a lot of ways, it was to me, it was the better show. They weren't afraid to tackle like pretty big themes, obviously the racism against the X-Men or against mutants, and like the having to live with these abilities and how it can be a curse, and themes of religion and faith and stuff like that. Like they weren't afraid to tackle a lot of that stuff in the show, and I was really, I think it was kind of one of those things as a kid. As a kid, it's kind of just like an interesting experience, watching a show like that. Like it's different than a lot of other shows that are real safe. And then, of course, you can't beat like the Wolverine one-liners, man. He, if I could quote those, I wish I had those one-liners on like a memory bank, because I would quote them all the time if I could remember them. But there was some really great writing on that show. Really looking forward to X-Men 97. And then at 15, I got X-Men Evolution. Thing is, like, obviously the 90s cartoon was kind of like, it was cartoon, and sometimes it was a little choppy with editing. Sometimes it was kind of all over the place. But, it was, the 90s show was a good show, whereas X-Men Evolution felt like a really smooth, well-made animated show. And it kind of told its own version of the X-Men that was kind of loosely based on the movies. But, you still got these really great arcs in there. Like you kind of start off with the Brotherhood and them going at it, and like them also dealing with the mutants being in a regular high school and having to interact with people while keeping their abilities a secret. But then it evolved into I remember the episode when they capture Wolverine and they first introduce the Sentinels and he's fighting them. And then the other X-Men show up and try to save him. And then the guy unleashes the Sentinel into the city. And they're like, the X-Men and the Brotherhood have to team up to try to take down the Sentinel. And it was just this huge epic thing. And then that built into the Apocalypse arc, that with, them releasing Apocalypse and him like taking over the world, and all these different mutants having to team up to take him down. Yeah, that was just a great show. I feel like they could have easily gotten 3 or 4 more seasons out of that show, although, I don't know much about the backstory of it and what happened to it, but it was definitely a good time. I have a lot of fun. Oh yeah, when they had the Scarlet Witch on there, that was another one. When she first popped up in the X-Men, like she whooped the X-Men's butt, and you were just like, dang. So yeah, but yeah, those cartoons really did a lot for me with these characters growing up. So I always appreciated them a lot. All right, at 14, we've got Daredevil, the Netflix show. We're really talking top tier stuff here now, guys. Like, this show was amazing. It probably could be higher on the list. It's one of the last actual TV shows on here. Season 1 was just incredible. And somehow each season it just got better. With season 1 being the conflict between Daredevil and Kingpin, and how they kind of went back and forth between, combating Kingpin as Daredevil, then combating Kingpin, on the law side, like using their, law firm, and then having to like resort to Daredevil again, and battling the Hand and stuff like that. Just really watching Matt Murdock go through the ringer. But then you got season 2 where they introduced the Punisher for the first time, and Elektra, and like the way they kind of told that story was really well done. I know a lot of people didn't like the Elektra stuff. I thought it was great. I thought, and the way that played into Defenders was incredible. And then season 3 was just, I think it's like 3 or 4 episodes before like Daredevil and Bullseye first meet. But once they meet, man, that show just kicks it into high gear and it doesn't stop. Daredevil season 3 was insane. And the way they left that show off, man, like there was a lot of open ends. It was a shame when Netflix canceled it. I'd really love for them to continue it with the new Daredevil show that they're doing. I don't see any reason why they couldn't. As far as I'm concerned, they haven't done anything that conflicts with the Marvel universe. So other than the tone, which has been gritty, but I feel like they're already kind of setting up that they're not afraid to go gritty. They just, they need to work that out. So really hoping that Born Again is actually just Daredevil season 4. So, all right, at 13 we got Thor Ragnarok. Again, this probably could be higher if I did feel like this was a big turn for Thor. I don't get me wrong, I laughed out loud this movie. It was hilarious, but it kind of took Thor in that goofy direction, and that said, like, this is the highest rated Thor movie, and like, maybe that's where he needed to go for a while, but he Hela as a villain was well done. The connection between her and Thor and Loki and Odin and all that stuff really added to her as a villain. And, I think Cate Blanchett knocked it out of the park. Again, another villain that I'm like, did they kill her off? Did they really just kill Hela? Like, she's a pretty big deal villain. Like, they could have probably found a way to do it that didn't seem so final, but what are you going to do, But yeah, this was a great movie. Afraid it continues that trend of having a great moment that's spoiled by trying to get a laugh. Because we already had, in The Incredible Hulk, we already had the scene where Banner jumps out of the plane and he's trying to turn into the Hulk as he falls to the ground. And of course he hits the ground as Banner and then turns into Hulk off screen, And I don't think it's a budget thing. I think they just go for the laugh. And I'm like I would have loved just as much to see him turn into the Hulk or land as the Hulk and just have like a really badass moment there. But I don't know. Again, they keep playing that moment for laughs, and I'm waiting for that moment for Hulk to get like another, his badass moment, because it's usually either he's terrorizing everybody or he's like flying off the rails, or he's being played for laughs. All right, Iron Man 2. I'm sorry. At 12, we have the original Iron Man. Not Iron Man 2, just regular Iron Man. This was it, man. This was the one that kicked it off. I remember when this came out, there was the whispers of them making other movies, but there wasn't like a lot of stuff coming out about it. I think this was before the media really started like really driving to like make everything that they could, every leak they could find, like big news. But, so at the time when this came out, wasn't sure if they were going to start making this universe or not yet, but the movie was incredible. Like, Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man was amazing. He really sold that character. They told his story really well. You believed his change of heart and his path to becoming Iron Man. And then Jeff Bridges as Obadiah Stane as the villain. Great. Gwyneth Paltrow, Pepper Potts, great. Our introduction to Coulson, great. And then, of course, the post-credits scene that's legendary with... I remember we were at the movie theater, and we watched it, and I was just like, man, that was great. And we were getting ready to walk out, and the people in the theater that worked in the theater were like, you guys should stay. There's a really awesome scene at the end. And I think they lied and said it was like 5 minutes long. But they were like just telling us whatever they had to get us to stay. So we went back in and sat down, and then you had that scene with Nick Fury. And I remember he said that, and I was just like, what? Like people just being like, oh shit, like this is happening, And yeah, Iron Man's what started it all. All right, at 11, we got the first Deadpool movie. I really liked the first Deadpool movie, man. Like it really did a great job of introducing us to Deadpool. I really liked the non-linear kind of storytelling to it, coupled with the humor, coupled with the constant Easter eggs of X-Men stuff. I loved that it was so I loved how faithful it was to the comics, while also kind of doing its own thing. Yeah, man, Don't know what else to say about Deadpool other than it rocked. It was a great time. Tons of laughs. And then at 10, we've got the Loki TV show, man. Loki, I don't know how they did it, man. They made one hell of a show with Loki. For it being just 2 seasons, it's one of the few shows that I actually like it as a show format because they do such interesting things from episode to episode that actually make it fun and interesting. And Tom Hiddleston in the role is incredible. And they've also somehow managed to make it tie in to the MCU in this big way while also being this kind of underlying, separate story that most people probably don't need to watch it, but it's done so well that you can't help but recommend it. And the first season was really cool, the way that it built this mystery. It built that mystery and the tension of that show, but then it also had the payoff at the end with Jonathan Majors as Kang, or as He Who Remains, and introducing that element of the multiverse into it. So well done. And then the way season 2 loops back and connects with season 1 in a lot of ways, and the way the whole show felt even though I don't know how planned it felt like this really cohesive, well-written story. Was just incredible. And Sylvie, another great character, done well. It just felt like it did so much justice to its characters. Owen Wilson as Mobius, and Ke Huy Quan as Ouroboros. It was such a subtle thing and so well done. And I think more shows could learn that lesson and try to really, take a note out of Loki's book and try to really be something special if you're going to do that. And I don't really know what else to say. I don't want to get too into spoiling it, but it's just a well done show. All right, number 9, we got Deadpool 2. I like Deadpool 2 more than Deadpool 1 just because we got more mutants, more just build up to this Deadpool universe. I'm so excited that they're continuing it in Deadpool 3. But yeah, getting to see X-Force and a lot of these characters that are from, they're minor characters in the comics, but just getting to see them on the big screen for a minute was fun, and get cameos from Terry Crews and Brad Pitt as the Invisible Man. But then you also get Juggernaut and Deadpool and Cable and Domino in really great roles, really great, well-written characters. Yeah, man, Deadpool 2 was a great time. That was a powerhouse year. I think that was the year, because I think Infinity War came out that year too, and then Solo was the Star Wars Solo movie was right in between them. And I was like, man, who planned that? Jeez. I mean, it was great for me. I went and saw all 3, but I know Solo got the short end of the stick that year because The Last Jedi just came out and divided the fan base. But yeah, that was a interesting time. But yeah, Deadpool 2, total win. Right above it, we got at number 8, we got Logan. Man, this is an emotional movie. I loved this movie in so many ways. Obviously, I think about things I would have wanted to see, and I know that it's based off of the Old Man Logan run. And in that run, Logan is, out wandering the wilderness and kind of just staying away from everybody because basically someone cast an illusion on him and made him think that he was fighting all these villains and killing all these villains that were attacking the X-Mansion. But then he found out that they were actually just his friends, and he murdered all his friends because, Mysterio casted some illusion on him. And so like he was just, guilt ridden. But Logan kind of turned that on its head because, they kind of made it where Professor X was actually the one that lost control of his power and killed some of the X-Men. And you don't really get to see that happen, but that's kind of like part of the mystique of the movie is like you're kind of wondering like what happened. Like, and that's also coupled with like this world where, mutants aren't being born anymore. They were kind of genetically wiped off of the out of the world because of science and stuff. And so it was just kind of interesting thing to me. The biggest weak point of this movie is, or the biggest letdown of this movie, I wouldn't call it a weak point because poetically it works that like Logan's fighting a clone of himself that's just all the rage and anger that he has, but at the end of the day, like, the X-Men have got such a deep, like, roster of amazing villains, and the fact that they chose to just make him fight himself, like, felt like such a waste. Like, they could have easily written it like, look, we took the adamantium and we made Omega Red because we felt like, the way that he uses it would be better or whatever, or we enhanced Sabretooth or something like that. Something where it's the same thing. It's like fighting a darker version of himself, but we get a villain that's like, something we've been wanting to see, But, that was kind of a minor gripe. Daphne Keane is X-23, 10 out of 10. Really hoping they bring her back to the MCU, along with some other things, but I loved it. I'm really excited for the future. Deadpool 3 is right around the corner in May, so hoping that this year we'd turn it around. We'd start getting our X-Men back. All right, now we're at this point where I was talking about. So both of these movies fall into the same category for me. Like they're both like top tier movie, Marvel movie, but they're both animated movies. It's the two Spider-Verse movies, the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I would have put them at this point regardless. I'd probably put Into the Spider-Verse above Across the Spider-Verse just because, Into the Spider-Verse was a really great self-contained movie, whereas Across the Spider-Verse was kind of built up to an ending that was kind of a cliffhanger. So to me, it kind of left you wanting more, which is a good thing sometimes. But when I was making this list, I think I got confused when I was putting them in, and I forgot to put Across the Spider-Verse on the list. So what I would do is literally just put Into the Spider-Verse it's at 7, and then Across the Spider-Verse at 8, and then push everything else down the list, which would knock Ghost Rider 2 off the list, sadly. But it was meant to be. I highly doubt we'll get a movie that bad again that wouldn't even make the list, but, we'll deal with that at a later point. But so we'll talk about Across the Spider-Verse first. So Across the Spider-Verse was incredible. The way that it kind of starts off with focusing on Gwen Stacy's Ghost Spider and her relationship with her dad and how she became Spider-Woman and how that ties into the rest of the story was incredible. And then getting to see Miles kind of grow into this role as Spider-Man, and he's trying to do his best, but he hasn't quite experienced that loss that we're all kind of expecting Spider-Man to go through to really push him to that level, the next level. But it was Across Spider-Verse was a great time, and go into the future universe and seeing all the different Spider-Man from all the different universes, and old Spider-Man and live action Spider-Man and live action characters mixed with video game and cartoon characters. It was just intense. And then the way it kind of leaves you on a cliffhanger made me really excited for the next one. So hoping it's going to be, they finish off the trilogy with like something really incredible. All right, and then at 7 we got Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, which was just such a great movie. Like, had all the elements you want in a Spider-Man. Miles seeing the regular Spider-Man die, and then these other Spider-Men coming into his universe and trying to help him, become his own Spider-Man, while also battling Kingpin and all his henchmen and stuff. It was just like such a great movie, and just really great story about, really coming into your own and believing in yourself, and, being ready to take that leap when that moment comes, and Into the Spider-Verse did it. All right, number 6. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. Last 6 movies. Number 6, we got Spider-Man No Way Home. I know a lot of people will say that Into the Spider-Verse is their favorite Spider-Man movie. For me, it was No Way Home. Obviously, they're kind of building towards all these movies being connected anyway, but I'm not afraid to watch the cartoons. I like them; they're entertaining. But I always am into seeing actors and seeing something that's real and being portrayed on screen, and having an emotional connection to that. And I think No Way Home nailed it, man. Like with following up with the cliffhanger from Far From Home, then leading into Spider-Man having to wipe everybody's memory so that he can try to have a normal life, which leads into all these other villains from other movies coming back, which was just like incredible, because you get to see these amazing actors play these roles again that they just knocked out of the park initially, but now you're getting like a different version, whereas instead of trying to stop them, Spider-Man's trying to help them. That leads to Aunt May getting killed, which is like his Uncle Ben moment. And like that was one of the most emotional things. I mean, I remember crying. I didn't cry during the scene with Aunt May, but when Mary Jane and Ned find him later, like I remember just that moment where they kind of all embraced, and that was really just a hard scene that brought tears to my eyes. And then the big finale fight with the 3 Spider-Men coming in and fighting together against all the different villains from the different movies. It was just awesome. And then the way they kind of set it up, the way they kind of leave it off, where Spider-Man can kind of go back to just being a street level hero and not having to, join the Avengers every time something happens. Although I'm sure he'll join the Avengers again at some point. It's just, I guess we don't always need him to be like, this universe saving character. Just need him to be our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, All right, top 5. Number 5, Avengers Endgame. I mean, it's really hard to like piece exactly why I like some of these movies more than others. I mean, Endgame was incredible. I cried at the end, when Tony sacrifices himself. Like, it felt like every movie was building towards him having to make the sacrifice when he was, the more selfish character of the group. But just the whole build up, you really felt like he had no choice but to do that. After literally everyone has gone up against Thanos and hasn't been able to take him down, you literally got to use the power of the Infinity Stones to stop him. But yeah, so many great moments in this movie, man. The payoff for so many different movies and the way they tied them all together, and you get to see things from different perspectives, and yeah, just the portal scene, epic. I remember wondering if they were going to like bring all the characters back to fight at the end, because you have this, but I think the main thing is like they didn't want to make it feel like, oh, there's just like 30 people punching Thanos and eventually they beat him. I think they really wanted to show like, even Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America working together with a concentrated strike couldn't take out Thanos. Like you needed like to use the Infinity Stones to take him off the board. Like, and that was just like one of those things where it felt like such a well handled, well written movie, and yeah, a great cap to the Infinity Saga. All right, number 4. This was hard. This was really hard, but I had to put the Winter Soldier at number 4. To me, the biggest moment of this movie is the reveal of Winter Soldier and who he is. And sadly, when I saw the movie, I already knew who he was. So, but I do remember being in the theater. I think I went and saw it 3 times opening weekend, and the audible gasps of people when they see his face and they realize who he is, and how that affects Cap and his story. It was a big moment. It was well done. And then the whole thing with Hydra infiltrating Shield was a big deal. Felt like a big universe thing, like a big in universe thing that was being addressed. And yeah, the Winter Soldier was top tier movie making, but it's not in my top 3. I've got 3 others that I hold in high regard, and I'll tell you why. At 3, I've got Captain America: Civil War. To me, Civil War was like I look at the Russo brothers. The Russo brothers directed Winter Soldier, they directed Civil War, and then they directed Infinity War, and they directed Endgame. And obviously, like, those 4 movies are in my top 5. So they have literally like proven that they understand how to make movies, how to write characters, how to tell great stories. Now, why is Civil War above Winter Soldier? To me, they somehow managed to like have the emotion between Captain and Bucky from Winter Soldier, like bring that in the beginning, while also introducing like several very important characters like Black Panther, Spider-Man, and Zemo, and have them all have an important role in the movie, and have this important, like, this really big moment that builds up to the airport fight scene, which is just epic and intense and everything you want to see with these, heroes battling each other, because they each believe in something different. And then the big twist at the end, man, like, I gotta say, like, when I was watching this movie, I was like, yeah, man, we're gonna go get these super soldiers, man. But then, like, when they turns on that little monitor and you see that road, I was like, oh man, no way. And you find out what the Winter Soldier did and how that affected Tony. It's like, man, like, wow. Like, that was a great twist, and just the emotion that was felt in that whole scene. And then, like, you got the scene where Zemo's like, I did what I was going to do. Now I'm going to kill myself. And T'Challa stops him and is like, nope, you're going to live and deal with your problems, your consequences. So Civil War, man, was just top tier. Like, and to me, that was what was building to Infinity War, which obviously is one of these last two, which, like just that way they told that story and the way they kept the twists and turns coming, you didn't know what to expect next. It was just incredible. All right, final two, man. What could they be? At number two, I have X-Men Days of Future Past. And this was tough, man. You know, I love the X-Men. The X-Men are a big deal to me. But, there's a couple things that keep it from the top spot for me. So first, let me talk about the greats. First of all, first 5 minutes of this movie is like a fanboy's wet dream of like Days of Future Past storytelling and just these X-Men and these incredibly powerful mutants fighting these Sentinels that are somehow more powerful, and watch them getting taken out one by one was just like, whoa, what a setup for a movie. What an incredible opening. And then the whole like getting to send Wolverine back in time to try and correct the problems of the past so that they can not have this horrible future. Just first of all, like getting Wolverine, getting Hugh Jackman in the lead role again was awesome. He really knocked it out of the park. But also putting him, instead of him being like this fighter and this animal of a character, he's got to be like the teacher and the leader and lead them down the right path, lead Xavier, who's this kind of lost character, down this path of becoming, the teacher that he needs to be. That was all incredible. The way they kind of tell the story and they tie it into the historical stuff was done really cool. It wasn't like so centered on like a historical event, but like the way they kind of tell a lot of the stuff, the way that mutants were integrated into history and used and experimented on. That was all incredible. And I was riveted by this movie. At the end, it's very emotional. It didn't quite make me cry, but it was like, it was done well enough that you really felt it at the end. And you felt like, a character like this, something had really changed in the story. So I always appreciated that. Trying to think of, the Quicksilver scene. Whew, incredible. The whole breaking into the Pentagon to get out Magneto was incredible. The whole battle scene at the end with the X-Men in the future, which included like, the original X-Men team, as well as new characters trying to hold off the Sentinels while Wolverine tries to finish his mission, was so incredible. But there was just a few things that I was kind of like, man, I wish they did a little of this or a little of that. I know the whole ending of the movie is centered around getting Mystique to change getting her to not kill the guy that made the Sentinels, so that they don't in turn like make more Sentinels. It was all centered around that. Although I was kind of hoping for more of like a big battle at the end with the Sentinels in the past and some of the other X-Men that kind of show up in the movie. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many great things in this movie, man. The mental conversation between young Xavier and old Xavier, where he kind of gives himself a pep talk, and he kind of reawakens that hope within him, was incredible. And like the whole setup of Magneto picking up RFK Stadium and dropping it around the White House like a big fence was intense. I think I was just kind of hoping to like see some of those old school Sentinels go up against like Havoc and some of those other X-Men or other mutants that were in the movie, and seeing them take some of them down. Instead, you get like Beast like jumping on its head and being like, I'm gonna scratch your head." It was just like it was a little bit hokey at the end there, but yeah, like such an incredible movie. Days of Future Past will always be one of my favorites, and I'd love to see them interpret it in the MCU in some way and do like a new version of it because I always liked the cartoon where it was more centered around Bishop going back in time and stopping an assassination and stuff like that. That was always a cool story. And I'd still love to see Master Mold make some kind of appearance at some point. I always remember there was a kid, and then there was also there was like an X-Men game that tied into the movies, but it was like supposedly between X2 and X3, where you play as like Nightcrawler, Wolverine, and Iceman. There's like a version of Master Mold in that like kind of gets unleashed, but I guess they didn't want to make that movie. Instead, they decided to ruin the Phoenix Saga twice. All right, man, number one, you know it. It's Infinity War, man. Infinity War was just top to bottom incredible. It's got a little bit of slowness in the middle, but it all pays off. You get the opening of Thanos wiping out Thor's Thor's whole half of his people, and he takes out Heimdall and Loki, and beats Hulk into into not being into the rest of the movie. Yeah, that was just such a great introduction to his character. I really wish we would have gotten more of the Black Order being badass, but and I feel like in the movie they just kind of served as his henchmen, which they were intimidating and they were tough, man. It took a lot to take those guys down, but that's kind of what you hope for with these henchmen. You don't want them to be just like some guy that gets taken out pretty easily. But yeah, man, this movie was top tier, man. Just one action sequence after another, building towards Thanos getting all the stones, and just like one turn after another, man. Like I remember, the opening obviously kicks you right in the nuts, and then you get right into like the first New York fight, which is like right on the heels of the intro. You get the explanation of what's going on, and then big battle in New York, great build up there, which leads into, the Guardians coming in and splitting up with Thor and everyone kind of regrouping, and then you get the Black Order coming after Wanda and Vision, which was a great sequence, and bringing Cap back and showing him as like, this kind of underground hero, doing what he's got to do. Which then leads into the Guardians kind of trying to get the Reality Stone, which was another incredible sequence. When you think Gamora stabbed him in the neck. I mean, obviously, I was like, "There's no way they just killed Thanos right now." But the way they did that whole scene, where you're like, I'm sure some people were like, "Whoa, like, did she just kill him?" And then, if they don't know what the Reality Stone is, when that whole sequence, like when the whole room changes from like, normal to like just a completely destroyed place, like you're just like, whoa. And then he comes out and he's just like, "Yep, I already got what I came here for." And then him taking her to Vormir and sacrificing her for the Soul Stone, and then you get this huge battle between the Avengers and Thanos, and that was epic. While the other Avengers are in Wakanda fighting his army, that was a huge scene. You get like Thor coming back from Nidavellir with the Stormbreaker. That was I remember like cheering in the theater for that. And then just this huge battle with Thanos and Iron Man and Spider-Man, all them, when you think they're going to get the gauntlet, and then, man, like, it was just like one thing after another of like, oh man, they're going to stop him. Oh no, he got away. And then and then he kicks everybody's ass. He almost kills Iron Man. Then he goes back, and then you get the scene with Wanda and Vision, and just like her having to kill him to try to stop Thanos from getting the stone that's in his head. And she does everything, and she succeeds. Like, that's the thing. Like, she does it, and then he just uses the time stone to reverse it, and then takes the stone anyway. And then he snaps his fingers, and then you still get that last spot right before he snaps his fingers, where you think, yeah, Thor got him, and then he snaps his fingers, and you're just like, what? And then the movie just ends on this cliffhanger, and you're just like, dude, like, that was just a movie. Like, that was insane. Like, that, like, there needs, like, there, like, that was basically Empire Strikes Back level intense. Like, you just whooped the heroes' butts. You had this big revelation about, like, what's really going on. And then just leave you hanging. That's it. We're done. Are we going to save Han Solo? Are we going to, is Darth Vader really Luke's father? Like, just all these questions, but like, you're just like emotionally done. Like, you can't, like, you're not ready to sit through another hour of a movie, So, to me, Infinity War was top tier, man. Like, that's a movie I could watch. If like I was just flipping through the channels and I saw it was on, I would sit there and watch the whole thing. It's like, it's just that great. And, I know there's not like a whole, like, to me, one of the best things about the way the Russos kind of handled those big, like, ensemble casts is they just picked the right characters and told the right story with those characters. And everyone else was kind of fluff, and they were there because they were supposed to be. They weren't like, it wasn't like they were just throwing them in to throw them in, although they kind of did that with Spider-Man in Civil War. Like, he was probably the closest example of that, where he was kind of, we need somebody, so it's 6-on-6. Let's get Spider-Man, But regardless, they still implemented them in a way, moving forward, that it was like so well done. But, so that's my list. It's pretty intense. It was pretty intense doing this. Thank you to those who listened. If you think I'm crazy, send me your list of 100. I'd love to see some stuff. I'd love to see some recommendations of different shows or movies maybe I haven't watched. I know there's tons of different cartoons and tons of different. I haven't seen a lot of the new animated ones that are they're kind of like, they're not exactly MCU adjacent, but you could tell they're using like the art styles of the MCU and stuff like that to do their shows. But if you have any recommendations like that, send them my way. And I'll probably do something like this for DC and Star Wars at some point, although those aren't quite as in depth as Marvel has been in my life. But I definitely want to at least do like an episode on each and just kind of talk about how I felt about some of those movies and stuff like that. But yeah, coming up after this, I've got my first interview episode. I got my buddy Brad coming on. We've already shot, and we also did video for that. So I'm not set up to do video on the streaming sites, but if you go over to my YouTube page, I have the videos over there. I've been doing videos for all the episodes. I try to at least add pictures, but if it's just me talking, I'm not going to do video myself. I think that's just weird, and it's kind of, I feel like, weird sitting there just talking into a camera. But if I'm there with somebody, I'll have video of me, and or if I'm doing like a video call or whatever. But yeah, this has been a lot of fun. It's been a good time, and if I missed anything substantial, let me know. Till then, be safe out there. Happy New Year, and keep it real.